let's go to the removing the cover on the limit switch. Take a screwdriver and pry it up. There's a rubber bushing here to seal where the wires go through with the housing. Well, sometimes I can pull it out with my fingernails. And you've got the limit switch. I grab hold of by the wires and pull up. Sometimes you have to wiggle it. This one wanted to cooperate. Well, I got the limit switch out. We're going to do it. I'm trying to get a good lighting here. These are the brushes. Sometimes one of these will fall off. If that happens, it's bad. Then you've just got this hard piece of brass, springy brass, touching the commutator, and it either wears a drastic hole in the commutator or groove in the commutator, or recently someone has mentioned that they had this arm get wrapped around the commutator, so I would have to imagine that this edge got caught in one of the splits of the commutator and wrapped it around it with it. These are the contacts. I'm going to see if I can get a little closer. These are the contacts in the limit switch. You need to clean these while you've got this apart. That way all of the electrical amperage can flow through it. If they're dirty contacts, it won't flow enough electricity to get the motor to run as quickly as it needs to. Take my screwdriver, stick it here, pry that part of the limit switch out as I drop it. Well, before I pick that one back up, you've got, oh god, the lighting's horrible. You've got your contact there on the top side that you need to clean. You've got your contact there on the bottom side that you need to clean. Am I getting you seasick from moving around so much? Alright. Oh, sorry as I bend over my fat gut. Now you've got this part of the limit switch out. This is the contacts that you still have to clean here. I don't know if you can see how dirty that is, but you want those to be nice and shiny. I use an old points file. Here, it's right there. An old points file back in the days when we had points and distributors. Don't get to see those much very often anymore. But clean those points, those contacts up real quick with just a real light brushing of a points file. If you don't have a points file, you can use sandpaper. Don't tell your wife. You can use an emery board or her fingernail file. Just don't let her know that I told you that, especially if you bring her with you to shows. This edge of the brush that contacts the commutator. Just to humor myself, as long as the brush looks thick enough, I like to take my razor blade and scrape away that black layer of carbon on the brush to where I've got a reasonably shiny surface again, because this is where all the power has to flow through this carbon pile onto the commutator. Okay, let's get to taking the actual motor apart. That's the really fun stuff, because then we get to see exactly how bad it is on the inside. Okay, we've got our motor here. I gotta take a smoke, jeez. Don't start smoking, kids. It's bad for you and it's expensive. Okay, we've drilled all of our rivets around the housing. These are the posts that operate the limit switch. You can see that they're spring-loaded inside the housing. As the motor spins, this knob, once it gets to its stopping point, if this was in the headlight assembly, trying to get a good light, as it goes down, I'm probably going to have this confused. As the headlight assembly goes down, it will suck this. Once it gets to a stopping point, it will suck this knob down. And watch that upper limit switch. This post here, this upper one. And at that point, you would hear the limit switch click. As it starts to go up, it'll spin until it'll spin 122 times, I've counted. It will spin until the headlight gets to the full up position, hits its stopping points, and it will force this knob up. And see the bottom one raise? That snaps open the limit switch again. We'll try that again later with the limit switch in, that way you can actually hear it. And my furnace is going in the background, so you wouldn't be able to hear it anyway. Okay, let's crack this baby open. There's along the edge of the housing, there's a couple slots that they've made grooves in that the screwdriver fits in really well. Can you tell I'm not a professional speaker? Yeah. These housings are sealed shut with a white silicone RTV. I don't really think that it's necessary, because these things are not watertight. The very bottom of the motor, the lowest point of the motor, is this hole right here to allow any water that happened to get in there to drain out. So since this thing is not sealed from the elements, I don't think that the sealant all the way around the rest of the housing is really that important. So I have never bothered to reseal a motor, and knock on wood, so far to date, I have not had any comebacks. Well, let me restate that. I haven't had any comebacks from water damage. Sometimes I'll miss the step. Alright. We're getting closer to having it popped open. There we are. Now, there are two parts of our motor. Notice I can see a little bit of an outline of silicone here in this housing that matches up with kind of a mark on the magnet. Usually, you have a circular glob of silicone on the shallow housing, and then 50% of the time you'll have an indistinguishable shape of silicone in the deep housing. Sometimes you don't have anything in the deep housing, but so far, to the best of my memory, all the ones I've taken apart, there's been a circular dab of silicone in the flat housing, and normally it will leave a circular mark. You can just barely see that there's a circular mark in this flat housing. Boy, this motor looks like it's in actually pretty good shape, so this is a bad example to show you on. Normally this is the green cushion that is completely destroyed, and it's laying inside the bottom of the motor. God, I gotta move this camera. These green cushions, they're inside, are normally just ground into little fragments of green sand, and they're piled up down here in the bottom of this motor. I'm sure I've got to have one somewhere that I can